Your tutorial 4 for Compsci 1MD3. Okay, so today's tutorial is fairly rudimentary. Just go to the Avenue post for Compsci 1MD3 and go to the announcement page. And let's open up the slides for today. So all we're going to do today is some more practice questions on coding BAT. And the point of today's questions are to really exercise our understanding of for loops, lists, and strings. So let's start doing these questions. And the quicker we get them done, the quicker we can start reading week. Okay, so let's go to Python. And the first one is called Make Chocolate, and it's under Logic 2. Make chocolate. Okay. All right. So in this question, we want to make a package of gold kilos of chocolate. In order to make the chocolate, we're given some number of small and big bars. The small bars are 1 kilo each, and the big bars are 5 kilos each. So with our function, we have to return the number of small bars used to reach the goal, assuming that we use big bars first, right? So let's say, for example, I have, a goal of reaching 8 kilos. Okay. And let's suppose that I have 2 big bars and 4 small bars. All right. So in order to reach the 8 kilos of chocolate, I would use 1 big bar to reach 5 kilos, and then 3 small bars to reach the remaining to reach 8 kilos from 5 to 8. And so with this question, I would return the number of small bars needed, which would be 3. Cool. Okay, so how about we take a few minutes to get this question done, and then I'll take it up. And I imagine the most confusing aspect of this question would be the wording of it, but the logic itself isn't too tough. So take a few minutes to get it done, then I'll take it up. Cool. Okay, and I'll play some music to pass the dead time. So we're doing Make Chocolate under Logic 2. Let me just turn my screen off for a second. And we will start playing some songs, yeah. Okay, and let me turn it back on. There we go. Okay, so once again, we're doing Make Chocolate. And I'll give you guys until 2:36 to get it done. Then I'll take it up. Okay, 1 more minute to get this question done, then we'll take it up. Okay, let's take this question up. All right, so in order to get this question done, I have to consider different possibilities in terms of the goal I need to produce and the amount of chocolate I have. So first, I'm going to consider what should happen if I have if the goal chocolate that I need to produce is greater than all of the big bars I have, right? So I'm going to say if my goal is greater than equal to the number of kilos I have in from the big chocolate. So I know that each big bar is equal to 5 kilos. So here what I'm saying is that if the goal kilos I need is greater than all of the kilos I can get from the big bars, well, that must mean that the amount I have to return is just the difference between the goal kilos and the big kilos. So then I'm just going to check to make sure that that difference can be supplied by the small bars. So I'm going to say if my small amount is greater than or equal to my difference between goal minus big times 5. Well, if that's the case, I should just return that difference. Okay, and likewise, I can do the other check where I can say if my goal is less than big times 5. So that means that the difference I have to fill is the difference between the goal and multiples of 5, right? So for example, like if I need to get 8 kilos and I have 2 big bars, then I have 10 big bars in total, but I can only move up in increments of 5 at a time, right? So how can I find out what the remainder would be if I divided goal by 5? Well, I can use the modulus function, of course, the modulus operand, right? So if my goal is less than big times 5, then I would only use as many big bars that can fit inside the goal. And the remainder, the modulus, would have to be filled in by the small bars. So then I'll check again and I'll say if my small bars is greater than or equal to goal mod 5, it can make up that difference. Then I'll just return that difference once again. And so if neither of these options work, then I'll just return -1. Okay. And as you can see, it works fine. Okay, so I'm going to pause here for a minute. Now, if this question didn't make sense at all, feel free to ask. Any questions to clarify it. And if not, we can move on. So let me just check the comments. So I see no questions. So I'll just pause here till actually you can just I guess post I guess if you want to, you can pause the video to focus on this question. And if you have any concerns, just post a comment so that I can hopefully clarify any concerns. I wish you got a notification whenever a comment was posted. Okay, cool. So let's go do string 2 then. Okay, let's go back to Python, string 2, and we'll do x, y, z there. Okay, so in this question, we have a function that is passed some string called str, and we have to check to see if the substring xyz is in the string. Now, if xyz is in the string, but substring .xyz is not in the string, then we should return true. Otherwise, we return false. So for example, xyz is in string, so we return true. .xyz is not in string, so .xyz is in the string, so we have to return false, and so on. Okay, so make a function to complete this task. Okay, so we'll take up this question in 1 minute if there are, if we can. So we'll take it up at 2:42. Okay, so let's take up this question. All right, so initially, I thought this question would be a lot simpler and that we could just get it done in one line using the in and not in keywords. And so just to refresh our understanding of those keywords, let me demonstrate them once again. Okay, so let's suppose I'm in my Python environment and I have some substring, or I have some string s that's equal to, hello class, and that's what string s is equal to. I could then check to see if a substring is in the string using the in keyword, right? So I can just type in, hello in s, and this command will return a Boolean value, true or false, depending upon whether or not the substring hello is in fact in s. And it is, so we get true. If I try to pass a substring that is not in s, like hi, that returns false. And I can actually invert the value of the Boolean using the not command. All right, so if I say hi is not in s, that's going to see if hi is not in s, which is true. Cool. Okay, so initially, using this logic, I thought we could get this done in one line by just saying, if return whether or not XYZ is an str and not XYZ is not an str. And I run my code. That mostly works, but I guess what I didn't consider is that in our example, we can have both .xyz and xyz in our passed in string, which should return true, but with this code, it returns false because we're assuming there's only one instance of xyz. Okay, so we have to solve that problem. So generally, this type of question is done by making a for loop that iterates through the letters one at a time. But with that in mind, I think maybe we can get this done in one line. So let's just try some experimentation instead. Like, what if instead we said return XYZ in string, and we check to see if where we find XYZ does not, no, that would still not work. Okay, actually, let's just do a for loop instead. I was thinking maybe if we can get it done in one line, maybe let me know, post it in the comments. But I think maybe we can use the find keyword to get it done in one line. But yeah, whatever. We can use a for loop instead. It's about the same complexity. Okay, so instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a for loop that says for I in range str. Sorry, in range length of str. And what this is going to do is it's going to iterate through the string one element at a time. And what I can do is I can say if that character of the string is not equal to period, and if the following three characters, so that's I plus 1 to I plus 1 to I plus 4, if the next three characters are equal to x, y, z, okay, then I should return true. Otherwise, return false. Okay, so once again, there are some things I've not totally considered with this code, but let's just run it to see what happens. So with this code, I'm just iterating through the string one element at a time, and I'm checking to see if the current element is not equal to a period, and if the next three elements are equal to x, y, z. And if that condition is true, then our function should return true. Otherwise, it should return false. Okay, so this mostly works, but it doesn't consider the edge case, which is that what if the beginning of the string starts with an XYZ, right? So in this example, the beginning of the string starts with XYZ. So we need to consider that edge case too. So I can just say that like if the first three elements of the string are equal to XYZ, then I should also return true. Okay, and you get all correct now. So one more thing, which is actually two more things. So normally with this question, we have to like make our for loop only iterate not all the way to the through the string, but only up until like the third or fourth last element, since we're checking four elements at a time. But with this question, I guess it doesn't matter. Maybe we just got lucky with the edge cases. But that's something we might have to do for non-string objects later on. The last thing that I want to mention is in this code, for their variable name, they used str. Now that obviously is okay in Python. We can do that, but it's not ideal. And that's because str is a built-in function in Python. And it's generally not recommended to rename such built-in functions. Like for example, if I go back to my Python environment, so str is a function that's normally used to cast data as a string. So if I pass in some number to str, I get a string back. Now I absolutely can rename str to be something else. Let's say some variable. Okay, this is a variable. And now when I call str, I get back that string. But because I've renamed it, I can no longer use the str function, which I may want to do, right? So I would not recommend doing that, but it is technically not going to crash the code. I imagine they did this because they just converted the Java code directly to Python. And I'm guessing, I suppose in Java, str is not a restricted word. Anyways, so that's a bit of a tangent. Let's move on. Okay, let's do sum 13. Sum 13 is under list 2. Okay, so let's go back to Python, list 2, and sum 13. Okay, so in this question, we have to return the sum of the numbers in the array, except if a number 13 comes by, we do not include that number and the number directly after. So for example, here, I'm just summing up all the elements in the array and returning the sum. Here, I'm summing up all the elements except 13. And of course, if a number followed 13, you would not include that either. Okay, so I'll give you guys until 2:52 to get this done. Then I'll take it up. Oh, so does that work? Okay, so cool. Let me try this out, Hanson. Return string count minus. But we want to return just a Boolean, right? Whether it's true. Okay. Yeah, so you're saying you're checking to see if they're not at the same position. But would we have to consider anything else? Okay, sure. Let me try that out. In the meantime, Hanson. Yeah, I guess it seems fine to me. Cool, cool. Yeah, I guess that is a much more condensed answer. So if I had a chocolate, I'd probably give one, but I don't. Sorry. So, but yeah, cool. Yeah, I wonder if this would still. Because I'm not sure count returns if there are multiple instances of dot xyz and xyz in the code. But I guess for these test cases, it works fine. Oh no, here's an example of dot xyz and. Okay, anyways, so yeah, cool example, Anson. Um, let's move on to the question. So Python, list 2, and sum 13. Okay, so with this question, I imagine we can use the sum function quite easily. So for example, if I have some list L that's equal to some series of elements, let's say 1, 2, 3, and then I can pass L into the sum function, and the sum function returns the sum of all of the elements, which is 6. But of course, with our code, we want to ignore all of the 13 values and the values adjacent to 13, right? So if I had this guy here that had a new list equal to the example test case, and if I pass that into sum, we get the incorrect answer because we're still summing 13. So I guess what I can do is I can make some code that iterates through the list, finds all of the 13s and numbers adjacent to 13, and sets them all equal to 0. And then when I pass it into the sum value, it returns the sum. Okay. Okay. So let's get this question done. So I guess we can use a similar methodology. We can just make a for loop that says for I in range length of nums. And then I can just say that if that number that I'm currently looking at, so if nums I is equal to 13, and then we want to make nums I equal to 0, and the number adjacent to I, so nums I plus 1, also equal to 0. And then we can just return the sum of nums. Okay, so will this code execute correctly? Okay, so let's try writing the code and see what happens. So I get an index error, and that's because in my code, I'm iterating through each element one at a time from 0 to the end. And at each element, I'm checking that number and the number adjacent, which means when I reach the last element and I try to check the number adjacent to the last element, I get an out of range error because the list isn't that long. I've run out of elements. So instead, I can just iterate up until the the second last number. Okay, so now I get some values, but there are some edge cases I'm not considering. Like, what if that last element is equal to 13? So if that's the case, I can just have a another if statement saying if the last element is equal to 13, then set that last element equal to 0. But of course, another edge case is what if I get an empty list? And so first, I should check to make sure the list isn't empty to begin with. If length of nums equals 0, then return 0. Okay, so I can run the code. And, oh, sorry, nums -1, my bad. Now, so of course, -1 lets me call the last element of the list. And so now when I run the code, I get all correct. Cool. Okay. So here's the code. Let's move on if that's okay. We have 2 more questions left. The next one is called has22, and it's under list 2. So Python list 2 has22. Okay, so with this code, we have to return true if an array contains a 2 next to another 2 somewhere in the code. Okay, fairly simple question. I'll give you guys until 2:59 to get it done. Okay, let's get this question done. Okay, so here I just can make a simple for loop that iterates up until the second last element of the list. And I can just say that if the element I'm currently looking at is equal to 2, and the next element is also equal to 2, then I should return true. Otherwise, return false. Simple. Okay. Were I? Oh, my apologies. Were I in range? Length of nums. Yeah, there we go. So relatively simple question. Let me check the comments. I see no comments. Okay, and we're making some pretty quick progress then. We have one last question left, and it's actually a really simple one. Okay, so we can go back to Python, logic 2, make bricks. Okay, so in this question, it's very similar to the first question, actually. So once again, we have to make some goal, and we're given two increments of 1 and 5, and we have to return whether or not we can make the goal with the given increments. Okay, and so because this is just a return true or false question, we can get this done with just one line. So I'll give you guys until 3:04 to get it done, and then I'll take it up. Okay, one more minute to get this question done, then we'll take it up. Okay, let's take up this question. So with this question, I can do it with just one simple return statement. So I can just check to see whether it's possible to make the goal using the given denominations of blocks and how many of each block I have. So I can just say return whether or not the goal mod 5 is less than or equal to small, and whether or not the goal minus big, of course, times 5 is less than and equal to small. And by doing those two checks, I can determine whether or not I can make the goal bricks with the given number of bricks. Easy. Okay. So here is a zoomed in close up of the code. And those are all the questions I had to take up today, actually. So we actually finished really, really early, I guess, because we have a small class today. But yeah, so I can be on here longer if you have any questions, or if not, I can end the stream. So if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat and we'll take them up. Or you can email me if you want to do that privately. Oh, and by the way, nice job, Hanson, on getting that question done in one line. Really good. Okay, so yeah, I guess I'll stay on for a few more minutes. If you have any questions, just post them in the comments. Okay. Oh, yeah, totally, Hanson. And start to rave or something. Okay, I think there's only two people left in the chat, so I'm gonna head out then. If no one else has any questions, if one person left. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Take care. Have a good reading week and such, and yeah, enjoy your time. Bye.